presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Fox Sports. We are Sun.
Evan Longoria is having a career year in 2016, slugging a personal best 35 home runs and sitting just 6 RBIs away from 100. Tonight, Longo and the Rays begin their final homestand of the year as young phenom Gary Sanchez and the New York Yankees arrive at the Trop. Following an 11-game three-city road trip, the Rays are happy to be back at Tropicana Field. Here they will begin the final homestand of the year with the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox coming in. Hi again, everyone. Welcome to an evening of Rays baseball with Brian Anderson, Dwayne Stats. Great to have you aboard. Well, the Rays and the Yankees square off tonight. The Yankees trying to stay relevant. There's still a long shot in the wild card, but they have a shot. And if Evan Longoria and the Rays have anything to do with it, things will not go so well for them. Longoria having just a great year.
Listen, 35 home runs, 35 doubles, the first player in Rays franchise history to do that. But let's talk about the second half of this most recent road trip, and Evan Longoria went off. 10 out of 12. 5-game hitting streak, 3 home runs, and he spread those out, had those 3 games in Baltimore where he homered in each of them, and he just continues to hammer mistakes. He's not expanding his zone, and if he gets his pitch, he is not missing it, hitting it for extra bases, a lot of power and production. And for Gary Sanchez, historic beginning of this season for him when he got up there. And I'll tell you, he cooled down just a little bit as pitchers start to make the adjustments, but then he's picked the pace back up. 5 home runs in his last 10 games, and overall, look what he's done in 41 games, 327, doing it with the average, but then the power and production on top of it. Another guy, make a mistake out over the plate at your own peril.
That's why they're calling him the Sanchez in the Bronx. Meanwhile, for the Rays, Steven Souza Jr. will not be available for the final couple of weeks. He has Susan himself. Tom Callis has the details in a moment.
And ready for a little Tuesday night baseball after the off day yesterday. Final off day of the year. Rays have 13 to go, including 6 in this final homestand of the year. When the Rays went toe-to-toe with the Toronto Blue Jays and won 2 out of 3 up at Rogers Center and then split that series at Camden Yards against the Orioles, they really stayed even with the offenses for both the Blue Jays and the Orioles. Part of that reason, Evan Longoria was solid, but they got production up and down the lineup. Unfortunately, they will not be getting production from Steven Souza Jr., who tomorrow in Nashville will have surgery on his left hip for that impingement. He'll be out the rest of the year. You see his numbers on the year. Here's Kevin Cash on the decision to have the surgery.
He and us, we've elected to go and have his surgery done Wednesday up in Nashville. So we anticipate that he'll be ready for spring training next year. You know, this is something that he went on the DL for. He got an injection for it, felt better, but it didn't get everything cleaned up. The last road trip for sure, and even before that, he was doing some good things. So, you know, we want all the guys to finish on a positive note, and he was right at the top of that list. And, you know, he should feel that way, feeling really good about it, the way his season finished up.
He finished up by having a better organized strike zone. His defense this year was the best of his career, and hopefully better things offensively to come as Steven Souza Jr. progresses at the big league level. Just over 3 minutes to go until our first pitch. The Rays and the Yankees kick off a 3-game set next.
Rays and the Yankees about to square off with the left-hander Drew Smyly headed to the mound to begin this series. Looking for his 8th win of the year, and he has pitched well against this New York Yankee ball club. And here's the lineup for New York tonight, presented by your Southern Ford dealers. Brett Gardner's going to lead it off, followed by Aaron Hicks, and then Gary Sanchez, who'll do the catching it in third. Billy Butler, recently added to the Yankee roster after Oakland let him go, is the DH. Mark Teixeira follows at first, then Didi Gregorius in short. Ronald Torreyes is at second base. Donovan Solano starts at third. Mason Williams will be in center field. He'll hit ninth.
Well, taking the mound tonight for the Tampa Bay Rays, left-hander Drew Smyly with a very impressive track record against this New York Yankee team. In his career, all things considered, a 3-0 record, ERA of 1.91 in 8 games, 5 of which were starts. Also has a save against this team. Let's take a look at the defense and see how it's going to line up here tonight for the Rays, brought to you by Golden Diamond Source. And in that outfield left to right, we have Corey Dickerson, Kevin Kiermaier, and Mikey Matuk. And across that infield, third to first, Longoria, Ramirez, Forsythe, and Miller, with Bobby Wilson behind the plate.
So Smiley set to go to work. He'll face Brett Gardner, the left-handed hitting outfielder, who starts the night at 258. First pitch is up and in, ducked by Gardner. A ball, no strikes. So we are underway. Lifted into center. That's Kevin Kiermaier right there with a little hop right at the end to make the catch. So he's already in good form out there in center.
Well, enjoys the game, plays it hard, full of energy. We've seen Steven Souza Jr. try to keep up.
We haven't, and as Todd detailed, Souza Jr. will have that hip taken care of. And when you think about where this club is now and long term with an eye toward next year, it made all the sense in the world for him to do that right now.
Well, and you know, unfortunate that you have to have the surgery, but he finished strong. It looked like he was trying to change his approach at the plate, and as his words, be more see ball, hit ball. The results, you know, they showed that. It's a nice way to end things, but when you think about that hip and probably the discomfort that he was dealing with and how he continued to play so hard, giving up that body all the time, you would have had no idea. Doing nothing to protect it, but going all out every inning.
1-2 the count to Hicks, the number 2 hitter in the New York lineup. Yeah, he did seem to simplify things, maybe organized them as a result of that. That's going to be a foul ball. Holding the count right there at 1 ball, 2 strikes. So the Rays will look toward next year and look for big things from Steven Souza Jr. in the outfield next year. He played hard, so we'll look forward to seeing him next spring. There's a base hit up the middle by Hicks. A 1-out single.
Oh, nice job by Aaron Hicks staying short to that baseball. Drew Smiley trying to crowd him in with that fastball, and just short and quick to the baseball and right back up the middle. That was a really nice approach and swing there by Hicks.
Yeah, if he can do that all the time, because that's been an issue even dating back to Minnesota. A lot of swing and misses, long swings. Boy, the way he can play defense, and with his arm, if he could do that all the time, he could play for a long time. Here's Gary Sanchez. Pitch is a strike. Well, as you mentioned in the open, Sanchez, who came up hot and then came back to earth a little bit, is in the stratosphere again with 5 home runs in his last 10 games.
A homer in each of his last 2. Yeah, that's where it goes back to it being a game of adjustments. You know, Gary Sanchez comes up quietly. He's probably getting pitched, like the book, a lot of fastballs, test this guy out. Well, he starts hammering mistakes, and he goes on a historic run. Okay, so now you look for the holes in the swing. You find them, you exploit them, and then now here recently he's started to either lay off those pitches or find a better way to attack them.
Missed that one up. And that's something Smiley does a lot of right there.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the way that the teams have been going after Sanchez when having success is at the top of the zone and beyond and below. Obviously nothing out over, but there's 2 different ways to attack him, and you can go breaking stuff below the zone, or you can climb the ladder with that heater.
And a cut and a miss on that pitch up. that one up out of the zone.
Yep, and he just continued to higher and higher you go. You can do that when you're ahead in the count. That's what we talk about, expanding the zone. This fastball, four-seamer, close to the eyes. It looks big. Sanchez thinks he can get it. Think again.
Now it will be Billy Butler. Butler has had a history of success against Smiley. Things eventually didn't work out for him in Oakland. And now here he is in a New York uniform, hitting .283 overall with 5 home runs. And there are his numbers against Smiley with a homer, 7 of 19 in his career. Pitch is a strike.
Gotten off to a good start too here with the Yankees. 4 out of 9.
Hot shot, that's fair. Up the left field line. Dickerson's going to have to go get it. They will put the stop sign up for Hicks at third on the double by Butler. He hit that ball sharply, just fair.
Well, you end up being let go from a team and picked up by the Yankees, who at the time were still in the thick of the playoff race, on the fringes now. And boy, that'll get your attention. And now 5 out of 10 as a Yankee. This ball, you're right, absolutely ripped right up the line. You squeeze it between the line and Evan Longoria, then you've hit that ball extremely hard.
Laz Diaz getting his left foot out of the way just in time.
He likes walking.
There's a strike to Mark Teixeira. Teixeira calling it quits after this year. 12 homers, hitting .198. Slow bounding away there from Wilson, but not far enough to give Hicks any ideas.
You know, and that's that breaking ball right there that Drew Smiley is using, well, like a breaking ball, but also as a change of pace pitch, as a changeup, because there were times where the breaking ball, the changeup coming out of the hand looked exactly the same. And so if they're going to have the same look and the same type of action, just go with one of them, whatever one you feel most comfortable with. That's what Drew has done, and really foregone the traditional changeup.
He gets that one by Teixeira. He went up.
That's what he's been doing. Curveball down, fastball up. How many times have we talked about it with this Rays staff? The guys that have the ability to play the up and down game, and Drew does it as well as anybody when he's right.
Pitch popped up. It's coming straight back and will be foul. Well, all pitchers love, as you well know, either the high-low game, back and forth, in and out. And if you can command that, boy, you got it made.
If you do all three, you get a bronze bust put in Cooperstown.
That's exactly right. He pops him up. Longoria, an eye on this one, and he makes the catch to retire the side. 2 men left in scoring position. Bottom of the first coming, no score. First inning. Lineup for the Rays presented by your Southern Ford dealers. Here's Logan Forsythe to lead it off, followed by Kevin Kiermaier and Evan Longoria, Brad Miller, Corey Dickerson, and then Mikey Montauk. Alexi Ramirez hits seventh in front of the DH Richie Schaefer. Bobby Wilson does the catching, hitting ninth.
Well, taking the mound tonight for the New York Yankees, right-hander Michael Pineda making his 30th start of the season. Record of 6-11, ERA a tad below 5 at 4.94, and this will be his 5th start against the Rays. We'll get into his numbers against the team, but the Rays have had their fair share of success against Michael here in 2016.
They have indeed. He comes in 6-11 overall, and here is Forsythe taking a first pitch fastball for a strike. Logan with 19 home runs on the year and 5 out of 12 against Pineda in his career.
When you break down Michael Pineda's game, you know, he's not a big walk guy, doesn't walk a lot of guys. When he does, they seem to be inopportune walks, and he's a two-pitch guy. You know, he throws his changeup so infrequently that I guarantee you hitters discount that pitch. They're not even looking for it. It's fastball, slider, and just too many mistakes made. You know, he's like a bullpen guy that doesn't have great command within the strike zone and then is trying to get through a lineup 3 or 4 times. Extremely hard to do.
And you can see how difficult it has been for him against the Rays this year. An earned run average over 9. And he is 2-2 to Logan Forsythe.
Well, but then these are numbers that he'll give you too. In 19 1/3 innings, he's given up 8 home runs to the Rays. Far too many, and obviously over half of the home runs off of Pineda are with runners on base. Bad combo. But in 19 1/3 innings, he's also run up 27 strikeouts. So he can get on streaks where he can make you look silly, and then all of a sudden he can't get his pitches out of the middle of the zone.
He's full up here on Forsythe. And Logan out on strikes. So 6 pitches, 1 gone on the strikeout.
Let's take a look at that Yankee defense and see how it's going to line up. Brought to you by Golden Diamond Source. And in the outfield left to right, we have Brett Gardner, Mason Williams, and Aaron Hicks. And across that infield third to first, Donovan Solano, Didi Gregorius, Ronald Torreyes, and Mark Teixeira with Gary Sanchez behind the plate.
The pitch. Kevin Kiermaier looks at a strike. Buick GMC big matchup, and a good September for Kiermaier. 5 homers, hitting .323. He's now racked up 20 steals, but 18 in a row.
Really like how that part of his game has really come around, and we've seen the confidence growing, you know, stealing off of left-handed pitchers, stealing off of tough righties, third base.
Tap down to first. Teixeira will make it unassisted. 2 gone.
And a lot of those stolen bases, a lot of this confidence coinciding with the move up to the 2-hole.
Yeah, when you see what's happened with this club over the last now 6 weeks, and the Rays, Kevin Cash and the Rays wanted to experiment a little bit, get some answers, at least start to formulate some answers toward next year. And moving Kiermaier up to that 2nd spot, he has found a home right there.
You know what it does, Dwayne? At the end of the day, do you know what it does? It keeps you from having to go into spring training and start trying to find this stuff out when you're on the move getting ready for a season to start. You do, you know, the last 2 months of the season, you try these different things, you get some answers, and then you don't waste time on stuff that's not going to work out in spring training. You go in with a plan of action, knowing what could work, what has worked, and you hit the ground running.
That's a base hit into right, up the line. Longoria's going to head for 2. Hicks with the pickup, and the throw not in time. A double for Evan Longoria. That's his 36th of the year. Evan starts tonight with 35 home runs and now 36 doubles.
Well, here it is. That ball down and off the plate. Look at the plate coverage. I know that ball was off the end of the bat, but he had to go down and out a long way to get to it, and by doing so, he gives the Rays a chance here with 2 outs.
Well, Evan now has 313 total bases. He's 5th in the league in that department. And it's Brad Miller with a man in scoring position. Upstairs, 1-0. So the Rays now have a chance to break out in front. Miller 5 for 15 with a home run off Pineda. One and one.
And we'll have to keep our eye out on that pitch, because that was a changeup right there, and see if, because of his struggles against this Rays team here in 2016, if he doesn't use that pitch more often, try to make it more of a weapon as opposed to just a every now and then show pitch.
And Miller out in front of that.
Back to back, and 2 pretty good ones right there to get back into the count, and now ahead of Brad Miller. Kind of like a prong. That pitch right there, some strange spin to it. Hey, there's so many different ways to throw a changeup.
A little wide with the fastball. Two balls, 2 strikes the count. Rays trying to break out in front. It will take a 2-out hit to get it done. Under it, and a pop fly into right. That's Hicks coming in. And the Rays are out in the first, leaving a man. On to the second, no score. The second inning, $2 dog nights presented by KM Franks. Twice the fun with $2 Pepsi fountain drinks. Double up on the deals when the Rays host the Yankees tomorrow night. Don't miss the last $2 dog night of 2016. Call 888-FAN-RAYS or visit raysbaseball.com/specials. This is Didi Gregorius leading off. Yankee shortstop hitting .278. Ronald Torreyes next, and then Donovan Solano due up.
Went back, Dwayne, and did a little research and officially have Michael Pineda down for one changeup. I think the second one was a backdoor breaking ball that had a changeup look, the one that we saw, and then the final pitch to Brad Miller was indeed that slider down and in.
There's Forsythe taking care of that ground ball. Gregorius is out of there. So he's 1 of 17 for breaking out the changeup.
Yes,
17 pitches in the first inning.
And he throws that three-fingered prong type changeup. You put your middle finger right over the ball, let the index finger and the ring finger kind of drape over the side and throw it that way. Another version.
Torreyes takes the pitch low. Ronald Torreyes. It's a foul ball right back into the screen. 1-1. Smiley coming off his outing against the Toronto Blue Jays. That's a strike. 1-2. Curveball right there. Gave up 2 runs in 5 2/3 and picking up a 6-2 victory over the Blue Jays in Toronto. Miller digging hard, but he's going to run out of room. That ball's out of play. Tony Pena, the first base coach, giving Miller some accolades there for that great effort. Where are you going in such a hurry? Foul outside of third. Solano on deck. Two and two.
Well, and what we talked about the Rays doing, it's kind of what New York is doing also. You know, after the trades of Miller and Chapman and Carlos Beltran, Ivan Nova, you start to get some of these younger kids and give them an opportunity, see what you have for next year.
Yeah, they started doing that and suddenly found themselves back in the race.
How about that?
I mean, what a surprise that turned out to be.
It really did. I mean, it was the infusion of the kids, new life, and some of them got real hot. I mean, the Rays were there when Tyler Austin and Aaron Judge went back-to-back starting their careers. Gary Sanchez was eating alive everybody.
Reyes pops it up, and Miller a bit more routine on that pop foul.
And, you know, the other thing that happened, Dwayne, is when you looked at the season numbers of the Yankees, they were trending in the right direction. You go back to the trading deadline, and the pitchers were pitching better. They were scoring a little bit more per game, and it all just came together for them. The bullpen really hadn't missed that much of a beat.
Yeah, you see right there, 4.5 back.
Yeah.
They're going to have to climb over 4 teams, even for the second spot. I mean, it's really difficult for them now. But they had an interesting run and created some additional interest in the New York area and around baseball. 1-0 the count to Solano.
Well, if you go back to the game where the Rays beat them on September 11th, that Sunday afternoon, they won that game and were able to stave off a 4-game sweep, because at that point the Yankees had won 7 in a row. If the Rays win that game, the Yankees have won once since.
Solano's out of there, 4-3. Forsythe takes care of that. Corey Dickerson's going to open the bottom of the second inning. Rays scoreless with the Yankees. The second. Rays about to come in to hit. They're honoring Chris Archer for being the team's nominee for the Roberto Clemente Award. And they have a great deal for you to be a part of the celebration. Upper level tickets for Rays games against the Red Sox Friday are now just $21 for a pair. Call 888-FAN-RAYS or visit raysbaseball.com/Clemente to get your tickets. Corey Dickerson leading off. The pitch is a ball, 1-0. Dickerson with 21 home runs. The 21st came in the wrap-up game of that series against the Orioles, accounting for the only run for the Rays on Sunday. A strike. It would appear that the Rays think Dickerson is more comfortable now. He's made the transition from the National League to the American League to a hitter's climate in the ballpark in Denver to here, which favors the pitcher. And the transition, for the most part, or a significant amount of his time, being the DH.
Which can be difficult for a young player because they're used to being out in the field, a part of the game all the time. It's a completely different animal to take an at-bat and then do whatever you have to do to keep yourself ready to take another at-bat maybe 45 minutes later. Extremely difficult. That's why you see, for the most part, that's been a job that's been held down by older veteran guys that know how to do that. Young kids sometimes they drive themselves crazy. They think too much.
Yep.
You know, maybe they're not as ready as they'd like to be. Maybe they're too ready. Maybe they've thought about it too much and they end up tangling themselves up. It's not easy.
Well, he chases that pitch, and again, as we've seen early in both lineups, hitters tantalized by the fastball up out of the zone.
Boy, that is the new game, you know, or the new fad in this game. She didn't say fad because it's going to be here to stay unless hitters can en masse start to lay off this pitch, which it's difficult because when the ball's up, it's closer to your eyes. You see the whole baseball. It looks big, or bigger than it usually does when it's down in the zone, and you think you can get to it. And then you start factoring in spin rate and vertical movement and all that stuff to get your head going. And you see lots of swings and misses.
Yep, Mikey Montook a strike, steps back. Not sure
they did not call that a strike.
Like that call.
Maybe he shouldn't have. Are you kidding me? I mean, tee it up.
And this one is wide, 1-1. You got to be careful with Bob Davidson. If there's ever been a balk called on a hitter, he'll call it on him right now. 1-1. And he's out front. 1-2. Well, you can see, especially I think today, more than ever, hitters are going for the downs.
Oh, yes.
And I think that's led right into that pitch up being effective. Montook out on strikes. 2 up, 2 down.
The old school 2-strike approach has gone the way of the dodo. I mean, there are very few guys left that'll shorten their swing, put the ball in play, use the middle of the field with 2 strikes. It is, we see it, guys, you know, strike 3 swings are just as big as their 2-0, 3-1 swings.
It's Alexi Ramirez. That's a fastball in there for a strike. Well, there's a little bit more of an uppercut going on.
Oh, yeah.
These days. And when you try to get a guy with an uppercut swing to get to that pitch up, it's impossible.
Dwayne, we were doing the pregame shows in Toronto, and so as I'm down on the field getting ready with Todd and looking at different things, on the big board behind me, they got Mark DeRosa and Josh Donaldson doing a little thing on hitting. And explaining what he does mechanically, and Josh Donaldson was like, looked into the camera, and he's like, hey, for all you little kids, home, when your coach tells you to hit down on the ball, don't. Because those are outs in the big leagues. You want an uppercut swing, and he went into that whole thing. How ground balls are evil in the game today. They are outs. They are looked at as outs. They want the ball to be put in the air. In the air, that's where you have a chance to do some damage. We've seen that happen with Evan Longoria this year. Many, he's cut way back on his ground ball percentage over the course of his career and over the last 2 years. And guess what? He's gone from 22, 21 homers to 35 and counting.
Yeah, but the interesting thing about that, he's probably been a more disciplined hitter this year than he's been in the last couple years.
Yeah.
If you can do that and be disciplined, or even more disciplined than you were before, then that translates maybe into more power and being a good hitter.
Those are elite players. It's not for everybody. It's like, don't try this at home. Don't try this if you're the 8-hole hitter. But we see across the board, it's like a cookie cutter, approach at the plate by everybody.
Yeah.
Uppercut, swing from your heels.
But if you're a young hitter and all you do is uppercut and try and hit a home run every time, technically speaking, that's what you're going to be forever, I guess. Because Evan didn't come up that way. He was a good hitter. He was disciplined enough now to add that, and he's improved his offense this year. Walk to Ramirez.
Well, I still think that when you put together the perfect lineup, you need a few scrappers in there. You need some guys that'll go the other way, middle of the field. You know what I mean? Put the ball in play, change their approach to move the baseball during the course of an at-bat, to go along with some guys that are going to freewheel, and you're going to get home runs and runs driven in, and you're also going to get a lot of strikeouts, but you take them because they do enough damage.
Richie Schaefer. Schaefer hitting .208. Pitch is a strike. 2-out walk drawn by Ramirez. And a big miss right there, 0-2.
Well, Richie not afraid to turn and burn. I think sometimes there's a little bit, that front hip will start to head down the third baseline. Maybe a little bit too soon.
And he's out on strikes, and aware of that, Pineda and the Yankees just kept that pitch right out there. Couldn't reach it. Through 2, no score. we go. The Toyota inside look features Drew Smyly, and you can look at his breakout. First 18 starts and then the last 10, and what a turnaround that has been for Drew Smyly.
Simplify things, gain some confidence, cut down on the extracurriculars, and just go to attack. You know, it's been that fastball up and down, the good curveball that he'll use as a changeup. You know, we used to see the cutter more frequently than we do now. I mean, he really has pared things down, and the numbers have followed.
First pitch strike to Mason Williams. Pitch off the plate in. Smyly with a strikeout here in the first couple of innings. Two and one.
You get that cutter right there, and he'll keep that around 87, 88.
Now strike on the corner. 2-2 the strikeout for Smyly. Came on the fastball up to Sanchez. Some classical gas there by Smyly that time, as he now works to Mason Williams and strikes him out with some classical gas up.
Well, you allow Drew Smyly and a lot of these pitchers to get to 2 strikes, and you can count on this. Spin it up, can't reach it.
So 2 strikeouts for Smyly, the first out here in the top half of the third. Now Brett Gardner. Nice breaking ball in there. Just start him with a curveball, strike one.
Yeah, and with that change of speed, you know, that fastball, 15-mile-an-hour difference.
Ball, 1 strike. Tapper foul straight back. A 3-0 record for Smyly against the Yankees. Third time he has faced them this year. He's 2-0 with a 2.08 earned run average. Gave up a 2-run home run to Brett Gardner the last time he faced them here. A 2-2 count. One of 2 home runs Gardner has hit off a lefty this year. Ooh, pretty close right there. And Mikey Montauk out in right field is yelling in, hey, that was a strike.
Yeah, listen, the strike zone here in the early going with Bob Davidson has been very inconsistent, and this pitch actually even better than that. No mitt bounced off the dirt.
Fly ball toward the line and left. Dickerson over for it and makes the catch. 2 gone.
That's, you know, the key too with those types of calls is if you're Drew Smyly, especially in that count, you cannot let it affect you. You let the ball go, you see he's taking it, your mind already assumes strike because you've done it enough, you know what the strike zone is and what it's been called, and all of a sudden you don't get it. You've got to regroup quick and come right back and make a pitch, which is what he did. You let that linger into the next pitch, now you walk them.
Yep.
Now all of a sudden they can start putting something together against you.
100% on every pitch.
Every pitch. And if you have to take a little walk, take a little walk. Just don't do it every pitch.
Yeah, that's the best advice of
Good
all.
God.
1-1 count on Hicks. You tire yourself out walking between all those pitches. Lifted toward right center. Kiermaier's over there for it. And a little hop to make the catch. And 1, 2, 3 go the Yankees. We're through 2.5. No score at the Trop. Rays baseball on Fox Sports Sun, brought to you by Ram Trucks, Guts, Glory, Ram. By Furman, the Bay Area's first name in Chevrolet. By Bank of America, life's better when we're connected. And by your local Toyota dealers. Let's go places. Bobby Wilson takes the fastball. Bottom of the third underway. Strike one. Bobby hitting a combined .240 on the year. Rays have welcomed him back. Taps it foul out in front.
Well, seems to be a favor to the pitching staff. You know, veteran game caller. Earned the trust. You know, when you earn as a catcher, you earn a pitcher's or a pitching staff's trust. That's huge. That relationship matters. It's not about just putting down fingers. It's about taking accountability, responsibility. These catchers that it matters to, that your ERA matters to them.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They want you to throw the ball well, even though they at the end of the day, they get nothing pinned on them. But they want all of their pitchers out there throwing the ball well. And so you earned a pitcher's trust like that, and you catch for a long time.
Wilson victimized by a healthy fastball up and out of the zone. And there's a strike on the outside corner at the knees. Strike one to Forsythe. Quickly down, 0-2.
See him shake all the way to get to that changeup. Shook off the fastball, the breaking ball, went to the changeup. Now 0-2. So it looks, especially here, second time through the lineup, that he is going to use that pitch as a weapon, or at least something used frequently enough to make you respect it.
Yeah, and you know, you would think that at some point he would be doing that. I mean, he's struggled. He's got a great arm.
Yeah.
6 and 11 with an earned run average almost 5.
As a starting pitcher, it's imperative that you have 3 offerings and that you use enough to make the opposition respect that. You know, you're a bullpen guy and you've got a great arm and you can go with 2 pitches, fair enough. But to go through a lineup 2, 3, sometimes 4 times with just 2 pitches forces you to have to be perfect, or those pitches have to be so elite level that you can do that. Most guys can't.
Fastball wide, the count is full. Well, he has 5 strikeouts the first time through the lineup. He's retired 7 men, 5 on strikes. And there's a popper foul headed out of play. Well, you look at his strikeout rate. Archer has struck out 10.5 per 9 innings. Next is Pineda, 10.3 per 9 innings. Foul back. So you do have to get something else in play. And even Archer, who likes the fastball slider combo a lot, there's still that possibility out there that you've got a changeup that could be put into play. There's a little base hit through the right side. The Rays get a base runner, picking up their second hit of the game.
That's the reason right there why you love Logan Forsythe in his position. You know, we talk about 2-strike approach. 2-strike, put the ball in play. He's got an open hole on the right side. He gets a fastball down and away. He lets it get into the zone and he pokes it right out into right field for a 2-strike extended at-bat base hit. He's a throwback.
Yes, he is. Just another reason that he's so fun to watch. He gives a great effort, number 1. Strike to Kiermaier. And his approach to the game is a multifaceted approach.
Knows how to get on base. Plays a strong second base. And do you remember when he came over, that first year did not go as everyone would have hoped, and you wondered what you had, and then all of a sudden it was a season ago where there was an injury. Nick Franklin coming out of spring. They were going to go back and forth and platoon that. Well, late injury, hard to find a replacement at that point. Okay, Logan, I guess it's yours. Well,
it's amazing how many times things like that happen. Right? An injury, and suddenly a guy's not playing every day is. Where we just left, Zach Britton's on that team.
Yeah.
Because they had to keep him. He was out of options. And suddenly he's contending for a Cy Young Award as a closer.
Oh, by the way, was a starting pitcher. I mean, he was a starter who, much like Brian Mattis, they had that little run. They had Mattis, they had Britton, they had Arrieta. Arrieta, things working out for him in Chicago, but Britton goes to the bullpen, and all of a sudden he's 95, 97 sinker guy that you can't touch. You just never know. You never know. In baseball and life, when opportunity's going to knock, and you better be ready to answer it.
Out of play, holds the count at 1-2. Kiermaier grounded out to first in the first, 4 out of 16 in his career against Pineda. And is out on strikes, foul tipped strikeout on the fastball. That pitch was away, up a bit, and certainly off the plate.
can see it right there. Yeah, never on. And you're just going out there to try to swat that ball the other way. And it hops over the bat.
Two outs with Forsythe aboard. Here's Evan Longoria. Down to third, backhanded by Solano. The throw is high and off the bag comes Teixeira. Solano, a nice pickup. The long throw too high, and Teixeira had to leave the bag to corral it.
Well, part one, excellent. But now you've got to complete it. And right here, tries to set himself, and that throw, you could see, comes out hot and high, and Teixeira not able to stretch and stay on.
Well, Longoria is going to get a base hit out of that. And the inning will continue with Forsythe advancing to second. Longoria 2 for 2, and Brad Miller will be up. Miller, 28 home runs. Started the night hitting .245. And 5 of 15 coming into this game against Pineda. 0 for 1 tonight. A ball, no strikes. One and one. Now 2 and 1. Rays left a man at second in the first. They left a man on first in the second. And a reversal of fortune. 2 on, 2 out here in the third. And we go to 2-2.
That hurt. You can hear that up here. That ball off someone's open hand.
Yeah, you don't want to catch that even with a glove.
No, that came up hot. There's an usher down there right now, and the gentleman explaining to him how it happened. That was like a bug hitting a windshield.
And the count is full. Rays and the Yankees in their season series have hit a lot of home runs. 16 games in, 57 home runs, tied with the Mariners and the Rangers in that department, the American League. Runners go. The pitch skied back into deep center. Williams will go all the way back to the wall. Leaps over his head, bounding off the wall. Forsythe has scored. Longoria scores. Miller's going to go to third. They're going to stop him there. All the way to third on that drive to center. And the Rays lead 2-0.
Well, the Rays get new life after the play by Solano on Longoria, and they capitalize. Look at Brad Miller get down and through that pitch and launch deep to center. Mason Williams has a beat on it. See the jump right there at the end. You wonder if he would have taken another step and then jumped. Early jump comes up short. Miller ends up at third. Rays take a lead.
Pineda, some wishful thinking out there, watching Williams trying to chase that one down. Corey Dickerson takes the ball. 6th triple of the year for Miller, gives him 75 runs batted in. And the Rays have taken the early lead 2-0. One and one. A 2-1 count to Dickerson. Pineda got ahead of him the last time up, got him to chase a pitch up. 2-1 this time. That's a strike on the outside part of the plate around the knees, and it's 2-2. Big pitch count inning in the third. Swing and a miss. Dickerson out of there. 29 pitches in the inning. The Rays come up with 2. The big blow, the triple by Brad Miller. And at the end of 3, it's 2-0 Tampa Bay. Fourth, greater coverage of baseball brought to you by T-Mobile. Well, Gary Sanchez has pushed himself right into MLB history. Most home runs in a season, with his first home run in August or later. 16, tied with Kareem Garcia. And he takes the first pitch here in the fourth. That's a strike. One and one. Sanchez, Butler, and Teixeira. So a 2-run lead for Drew Smyly. And he just misses a little wide there. Down 3-1. There's a strike on the outside corner. So it keeps this count alive. Full count. Cut on the fastball, a little piece of it foul. 2-4-0 for the Rays, 0-2-0 for New York. There's Billy Butler, the DH. He'll be next. Then Mark Teixeira. It's popped up. Longoria in toward the mound to make the catch. Now Butler, who hit the ball hard up the left field line his first time and picked up a double. And that moves him to 8 for 20 in his career against Smiley, hitting .400 against Drew with a home run. Goes for the first one and lofts a fly ball toward Mikey Matuk in right field, who makes the catch. 2 up, 2 down. Follow Rays Baseball live with the MLB.com @bat app. Stay up to the moment and any moment with game day, live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and more. Download MLB.com @bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and tablet. Mark Teixeira. Pitch is a strike. One and one. Ball, 2 strikes.
You see how that pitch acts as a changeup? You know, Teixeira almost double clutched before he swung at that pitch. So it's too full.
There's a long one to left. Turned on the fastball and hits that one deep into the seats.
That hit the set.
That ball,
yeah,
headed for the set. That's exactly right.
It cleared that little wall. I mean, Todd or Arestas are sitting out there, and one of them just got wiped out. Well, Mark Teixeira, veteran hitter, smart hitter, watching Drew Smiley abuse guys with the elevated fastball, says, you know what, with 2 strikes, not going to get me. Watch him get to this. Been doing this all game, but he goes right up and gets to it. That's making the adjustment, in-game adjustment, and it leads to a solo blast. And watch it get the set. Oh, yeah. I got a chair.
They might have to repair the set before the postgame.
They might have to.
D. Gregorius takes the pitch low, so now it's 2-1. Well, that's 407 home runs for Teixeira. 2-0. He's one of 5 switch hitting hitters, which would essentially be a switch hitter. So one of 5 switch hitters to hit that many home runs. Fly ball right center and right in front of Montauk. Kiermaier takes care of that. So Gregorius is out number 3. It's 2-1.
Ward, it's 2-1 as we head to the bottom half of the 4th inning. Coming up on Sunday is our final Kids Sunday of the year and Family Fun Day, which means it's also our final giveaway for the kids 14 and under. It's a DJ Kitty toothbrush holder. This one could courtesy of United Concordia Dental. There you see it, guys. I actually have a toothbrush here, so we'll get to test it out. He's got 2 arms, and you can hold a toothbrush in each one of those. So there you go. That's going to be Sunday. Kids 14 and under, call 888-FAN-RAISE or go to raisebaseball.com for the DJ Kitty toothbrush holder. There you go.
I need one of those for the road trips.
There's a strike to Mikey Matuk. I'm thinking.
I brush my teeth on the road.
Well,
it may not look like it, may not smell like it.
Wouldn't even go there. This pitch is down 1-1. I was just trying to conjure up the mental image of you in your room with DJ Kitty and him holding the toothbrush.
Listen, here's what I'll do. I'll do a favor for you. We have one last road trip.
Yep.
When we get to Chicago and I get my room set up, I'm going to take a couple of pictures and I'm going to bring them to the field and show you.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
And the DJ Kitty toothbrush holder in my room on a road trip will no longer seem very bizarre.
Okay, good. Well, that makes me look forward to the next road trip.
Not yet. We just came off one.
I think that'll be great.
How about the laundry? Are you kidding me? I'm still doing it. It's still not done.
Yeah.
And we had an off day.
Yep.
Dry cleaning and laundry. Honestly.
11 days.
11 days. By the way, the first couple of days of workout clothes, when they get pulled out of the bag after 11, it'll light up the room, baby. Toxic. I mean, there are smells that you're like.
See, we've gone from DJ Kitty and the toothbrush holder to this now.
Well, it's a long road trip. We were talking about road trips.
Rather talk about DJ Kitty.
Mikey.
Now the count is full to Mikey Matuk.
And we haven't even missed an AB. This is the action pitch.
That's it. 3-2. And he gets him.
Now, second time that he has expanded down and away to Mikey Matuk. And we said at the beginning of the game that Michael Pineda, an enigma. You look at some of the numbers that come at you, the win-loss record, the ERA, the number of homers given up, and you go, okay, well, then you look at the strikeout numbers. And he is capable of dominating and wiping guys out with the slider or the fastball. And we've seen it here tonight. Rays fortunate to have a lead right now. One mistake made. One big mistake made.
Yep. Well, 8 strikeouts now for Pineda. Strike the count on Ramirez. Foul out of play. 0-2. One out, bases empty. Pitch up and fouled away. Cut and a miss. Another strikeout. He continues to roll with that strikeout pitch. That's 9.
23 innings against the Rays here in 2016. 23 total innings, and he has 36 strikeouts in 23 innings, but also an ERA that is over 9.
9, yeah. Over 9.31 to start the game. That's amazing.
It really is. I mean, it really is.
Into center field. Williams on the run, gets there and makes the catch to retire the Rays. We're through 4. Headed on to the 5th inning here from Tropicana Field. Another look at Williams coming in. 2-1 Rays. Going headed into the fifth. It is 2-1. Rays lead this game. Ronald Torreyes leads it off. Bottom three in the New York order: Torreyes, Solano, and Williams. That's a strike. Torreyes fouled out to Miller at first base his first time. Two-strike count. Breaking ball, and he was way out in front of that. In the dirt, and he missed that one. And the flip down to first will complete the strikeout. Torreyes hanging around the plate, maybe trying to convince Davidson that he fouled it.
Amen. You get a ball in the dirt, you either take off right away or you say, hey, I got a piece of that. And he certainly sold it, but Bob Davidson was having none of it.
So it's a strikeout for Drew Smiley. His third of the night. There's Solano. Bounces it to short. Ramirez right there, and a nice play on the receiving end. Miller with a great pickup on the low throw.
You know, the backhand pickup is going to be a little bit more difficult, and at the same time, that was not an easy one. A low, hard throw from Ramirez to the backhand side. When you start to look for signs of Brad Miller, I mean, that's that in-between hop backhand, and a really nice job of staying with it. Looking more and more comfortable down there at first base.
Yeah. You make pickups like that at first, hit a bunch of home runs, and life's really good.
Yes, it is.
Oh, my. Strike one to Mason Williams. Williams struck out, chased the pitch up. His first time around, it's 1-1. Mason Williams, his father Derwin played in the NFL, played for the New England Patriots back in the 80s. Fly ball center field. Kiermaier there to make the catch. More about his family background the next time he hits later on in the game. 2-1, Rays lead. Rays baseball on Fox Sports Sun, brought to you by Ram Trucks. Guts, glory, Ram. By Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by your Southern Chevy dealers. Rays got a couple runs in the third. New York a run in the fourth, and we go to the bottom of the fifth. Here's Bobby Wilson. And he's after the slider again. Strike one. Fell behind in the third, and then Pineda got him to chase a fastball up. This one down the line, going to be foul. And Bobby's behind in the count 0-2.
Well, with these two guys here tonight, a dangerous place to be. 0-2. Because with Pineda, you're thinking elevated heater, wipeout, slider, down and away. It's going to be one of the two, or that's what you're banking on.
Into the dirt. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Pineda's single game strikeout high this year is 12. That came against Texas at the end of June. Pitch up and a high pop up. Foul ball. And that will be the first out. So Sanchez takes care of that high pop up. We'll go back to the top of the order. Got 12 strikeouts on June the 30th against Texas in New York. And that's the only time he has been in double figures in strikeouts this year. 9 strikeouts in 3 other outings, and now this one. Logan Forsythe takes the pitch low. Well, Forsythe, looking at him for the 3rd time tonight. Pineda starting his 3rd time through the lineup. Let's see how this fares. 1-1. Two balls and a strike. 2-2. Oh, strike 3 called on the outside corner. That's strikeout number 10.
And that's the one pitch you're probably not looking for. You know, again, you're looking for something away. It's going to be the slider or the fastball up. But Pineda paints the outside corner with a fastball 93, 94 miles an hour. And boy, did he put that in a great spot.
Here's Kevin Kiermaier. Strike 1. Well, you can see the Yankees situation with him. He's gone 6-11 with a 4.94, and then you see this arm.
Yeah. No, it's one of two things I think has to happen. Either you make him a bullpen guy. You take your fastball and your slider and you come out of the pen. Fair enough. Or you tell him that changeup, we're going to knock some dust off that thing and you're going to use it a little bit more. You're going to incorporate it more into the game plan, which was going to, at the end of the day, help out the fastball and the slider.
And you don't have to use it a bunch.
Enough to make it, you know, something a hitter's got to think about.
And boy, that one, a fastball up right by Kiermaier. 2 more strikeouts, 11 on the night. 2-1 Rays. One-run ball game. Rays got 2 in the 3rd on the triple to center by Brad Miller. Chased home Logan Forsythe and Evan Longoria. Mark Teixeira took aim on the pre- and post-game set in deep left. Check the equipment before the post-game begins. Teixeira belting his 13th home run of the year, and that's it in the scoring department, 2-1. Drew Smyly will start his 3rd time through the order here in the 6th. Starters, 5 innings, a big strikeout performance by Pineda, 3 strikeouts, no walks for Smyly. And there's the curveball for a strike to start Brett Gardner.
Shows you can get it done a couple of different ways. You can dominate, overpower everybody, or in the case of Drew Smyly, you elicit soft contact. Changing speeds, pop-ups, a little ground ball here and there. Pop-ups.
Short right. Matuk there. 1 gone.
That almost was a haiku.
All right. Well, speaking of all that, let's go to Todd Callis. Todd, how you doing?
I have no haikus, but I'm good, Dwayne. Thank you. Last time Teixeira batted, BA brought up a point about how the curveball looked like a changeup, and Teixeira is actually the last guy that Drew Smyly threw a changeup against this year. It was in his last start against the Yankees, and he just threw one changeup that whole game. It happened to be against Teixeira. The deal is that BA has been on this for a long time, is the curveball and changeup were too similar. So even though he never threw a lot of changeups, he's basically completely shelved it since that last start against New York, and the results have been pretty good since.
And I would say that throwing it once in a game is shelving it too. and you wonder why he went to that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm only going to do this once today.
Yep.
I'm gonna bring it out because there were. I mean, it may have been going into that start. He hadn't thrown one in like 3 starts, and then just decides I'm going to sprinkle one in today, and then put it back in my pocket.
Down to short. Ramirez gets rid of it quickly, and Hicks is out of there.
Speaking of that last road trip, a lot of my dress shirts by the end looked like they had been pulled out of my pocket.
But not while you were wearing them. That's
I'm going to tell you,
difference.
When I was growing up, one of the jobs that my mother gave me on Saturday mornings was to do the family ironing. Big basket of clothes, all the collared shirts for everybody, and I had to iron them every Saturday morning. And let me tell you how that has come full circle when we go on these road trips and having to iron all the dress shirts.
Yeah. See, your folks are great.
They are.
I mean, just great people.
Teachable moments.
Yeah. She made you do the ironing.
The ironing.
Yeah. You complied.
Mop the floor a lot too.
Yeah.
But not with a mop. Hands and knees, old school style.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't get the good jobs. There are not many good jobs when you're a kid, but I didn't get the good ones.
The pitch is down. 2-1.
Chopping wood was fun.
Yeah.
Chopping wood.
Going hunting.
Yeah.
That was good.
Let's not even go there. I mean, I'm traumatized by some of the stuff that we went after and ate. I mean, Dwayne, it's a rat with a furry tail. It's a rat with a furry tail.
Some people find squirrels to be quite lovable.
Yeah, and some of them
and some
find
delicious.
them nourishing.
There is ball 4, a 2-out walk. Now, Paris did a great job, and we congratulate them and think fondly of them frequently.
It's a great way to tidy that whole talk out.
So with Sanchez at first, 2 outs. The hitter is Billy Butler. Butler has doubled. A fly ball to right. Oh, he shoots this one into left center. Cut off nicely by Dickerson, getting the ball back into the infield. Boy, Ramirez thought about going to second because Butler was headed up there. It was open, and there was no place to go for Ramirez. So he eventually skipped the ball into the plate. And on the double with Sanchez at third, it's second and third with 2 gone.
You know, we've been critical at times at some of the shallow angles that Corey Dickerson has taken trying to cut balls off. Well, I'll tell you what, he takes one here, but he gets to it. And if this ball gets by him, Sanchez has a good chance of scoring, but that's a great job of angling himself back to where he can cut that ball off. It doesn't get by him. You keep the runner at third and you give your pitcher a chance. That was well done and a good adjustment made from some of the other angles that we've seen him take out there.
Yeah, you are absolutely right about that. An outstanding play by Corey Dickerson to keep the runners still on the bases as opposed to at least one of them crossing the plate. Here's Teixeira. The pitch is upstairs. Teixeira hit the fastball out of the ballpark, out of the field anyway, in the 4th inning. And now they have Gregorius on deck. And first base open. The Rays are going to walk Teixeira. So this will be an intentional walk with the count 1-0. Well, Teixeira, who hit the home run in the 4th inning, is intentionally walked with Didi Gregorius coming up. Gregorius 0 for 9 in his career against Smiley. But the other thing about that's interesting, Gregorius, left-handed hitter, he's hitting .326 against lefties, which is the 3rd highest average by a left-handed hitter against left-handed pitching in the major leagues. And he fouls this one out of play. So on the one hand, he's 0 for 9 in his career against your lefty, but against lefties at large, he's one of the best left-handed hitters hitting left-handers in the major leagues. 3rd best at the moment.
I'll take my lefty.
Pitch is up, 1-1.
And you don't have much choice, but 0 for 9, you start to see a trend building. Maybe trouble picking up the release point. Maybe it's that elevated fastball, some pop-ups.
Well, a big spot here. 2 outs, bases loaded. 1-1 the counter Gregorius. And he pops him up foul. That's going to be out of play. 1-2.
You can see him staying up at the top of that strike zone with the heater. And now when you get to 1-2, you start to think about, do I go higher? Does he try a breaking ball below? Try to get a ground ball. He's gotten both out of Gregorius tonight. A ground ball to second, a fly ball to center. Big pitch here.
Smiley's 1-2. Fly ball into left. Little back Dickerson up a few steps, but he's right there. And that takes care of that threat. Yankees leave him loaded. Evan Longoria will open the bottom of the 6th when we get there. It's 2-1 Tampa Bay. Evan Longoria walks to the plate with the Rays up 2-1. Evan to lead off the home half of the 3rd, followed by Brad Miller and Corey Dickerson, with the right-hander Michael Pineda still out there. On that list of American League right-handed hitters against right-handed pitching. And when it comes to home runs against righties, Evan Longoria third on that list behind Encarnacion and Trumbo. .35 home runs total. Evan started the night 9th in the league in home runs. Brad Boxberger is up in the Rays bullpen. And the Yankees get some action going in their bullpen as well. It's Luis Severino, the right-hander, Tommy Lane, the lefty. And it's 3-1. Evan 2 for 2, a double and a single and a run scored. What turned out to be an infield single kept the third inning going in front of the 2-run triple by Brad Miller. 3-2. Lifted toward right center. Hicks closing from right. And Evan retired for the first time tonight. Well, Brad Miller will be up here next. Miller with his 6th triple of the year gave the Rays their 2 runs, upping his RBI total to 75.
Well, and when did it come? 2 outs in the inning. And that's where Michael Pineda has struggled. I mean, coming into this game, a .329 average, .384 on base with 2 outs. Trouble closing out innings, and it's bit him here tonight.
One strike to count. Ground ball past the diving Teixeira into right. Miller hangs on at first with his 2nd hit. He's 2 for 3.
Well, it's a great perspective here. Teixeira, his jump just a hair late, and that dive a little bit short. You're so used to him getting to those, you're surprised when it slips by.
And that's going to be it for Pineda, who had gone under 5 innings in each of his last 3 outings. He goes 5 1/3 in this one.
Cannon Field, the Rays hanging on to a 2-1 lead, and Michael Pineda Interesting outing once again. He leads with a runner on and trailing, but boy, did he have the strikeout pitches going here tonight. The wipeout slider, a lot of fastballs up above the zone. He had the Rays hitters at times just guessing, missing pitches by a ton. But with 2 outs, a little backdoor breaking ball there, and Brad Miller would go deep to center, get it over the head of Mason Williams, knock in 2 runs, and give the Rays what would be a 2-0 lead at that point. And you can see right there, Michael Pineda, none too happy to come out of this game here.
He leaves for the left-hander, Tommy Lane, in the game to match up against Corey Dickerson. And the pitch missed. There are the numbers, the line on Pineda. 11 strikeouts in 5 1/3. 1-1.
Well, you remember the game that Joe Girardi pulled him from up in New York. They had a 7-2 lead.
Yeah.
2 outs in the 5th inning, couple runners on, and Brad Miller coming to the plate, and he came out, pulled him, so he can't qualify for the win, and had a 5-run lead at the time. He wasn't too happy about that one either.
One count to Dickerson. Brad Miller, the runner, back in. Pineda out with 11 strikeouts, 12, as we mentioned earlier, his season's high, career high 16. That came last year against Baltimore. Dickerson fouling it back. Tommy Lane, the former Boston Red Sox lefty. Their lob over to first. Reach and a miss right there. Dickerson out on the slider. 2 gone. And now Lane matched up against Dickerson. The right-handed bat of Mikey Montouk. And there's going to be another call to the bullpen made by Joe Girardi. Right back in a moment. Joe Girardi has made another pitching change. Tommy Lane faced one man, picked up a strikeout. Now Luis Severino. Tomorrow, Alex Cobb on the hill. We'll be with you at 6:30. That's a great matchup right there. Masahiro Tanaka against Alex Cobb in the middle game of this series. Again, our coverage begins at 6:30. Here's Montour. Takes the fastball too high. 19th appearance for Severino. His 10th out of the bullpen. His most recent came Saturday in Boston. 1-1.
Well, Joe Girardi, as we saw up in New York, not afraid to go to that bullpen early and often, and with the expanded rosters, you can expect that the next couple of nights here.
One and two. It's Miller at first. Reached on the base hit off of Pineda. That was the end of the evening for Michael Pineda. Two and two. Boston has a 2-1 lead on Baltimore. The game in the bottom of the 6th at Baltimore. And a foul ball. Hit the dirt. Count still. 2 balls, 2 strikes. And he's out on strikes to retire the side. Fastball, number 90's got him. On to the 7th, 2-1 Rays. Seventh inning from Tropicana Field. 2-1, the Rays lead the New York Yankees. Here's Smiley, a good outing as he departs after 6 innings.
Well, you know, listen, we talked about it early on. He's had good success against this team over his career, a couple of good starts against them this season. And the 3rd time he's gone at least 6 innings, 2 earned or fewer. That would be the 1 earned run, and you got to credit Mark Teixeira there, making an adjustment and going up and getting that fastball up above the zone, or at least at the top of the zone. Drew Smiley wondering how in the world did you go and get that? That was an effective pitch for him all night long, and gives way now to the bullpen with the lead.
22nd appearance for Brad Boxberger. On with a mark of 4-2. Faces Torres, the second baseman. Pitch is a strike. First pitch strike. Ronald Torres has fouled out to first and struck out on a breaking ball. That was against Drew Smiley. Ground ball, base hit to the left of Longoria and threw into left. Leadoff man on for the Yankees for the first time tonight.
Boxberger, that breaking ball, I think it was, just didn't get it to its spot. He wants that pitch away. And watch Torres able to get a good look at that pitch, middle in, wait on it, and then hammer it right by Evan Longoria.
Donovan Solano, a couple of ground ball outs. Takes the pitch down this time. Rays would love the ground ball right here. Nobody out with a runner aboard. It's a strike, 1-1. Solano originally signed by St. Louis back in 2005. Two and one. Solano spent the year at Scranton. 313 there. All over the infield. Second, short, third, DH'd. Starting at third base tonight. Runner goes. Great jump and a foul ball out of play. Boy, he was going to steal that one. It appeared he could have stolen it standing up.
Ray's fortunate to get that foul ball and send him back. You could see Solano too. He tried to stay inside that pitch. Maybe a hit and run.
Marquardt and Evelyn busy in the bullpen. Move over to first. Back in, Torres.
That's what a jump like that will earn you. May get another one.
Yep. And the breaking ball is popped up. Foul ball and handled by Miller. Might have been the change.
Yeah, it stayed in.
Nice little. Had him out in front that much, so that's a big out.
Well, you're very rarely going to get a guy jammed by a changeup in the upper 70s. There it is. Here it goes. Can't get the barrel to it.
So the first out recorded. And here is Mason Williams. And a move to first. Torres back in. Williams has struck out and hit a fly ball to center. Over to first. Torres back in. As we mentioned the last time, Williams' father played in the NFL. Not his grandfather, but his grandfather's brother, who would I guess be his great uncle, was Walt Nonek Williams, who played in the major leagues as an outfielder.
Nonek?
Yep. Well, Baseball is one of the greatest sports for nicknames.
Oh, yeah.
And Walt Williams truly appeared to have no neck. He was about 5'6", no neck, came up with the Colt 45s, and then played with the White Sox.
Do we have any pictures?
I'm sure Johnny O has a picture or two. Back into center, Kiermaier will make the pickup. So Williams strokes a single. Torreyes stops at second.
At the bottom of the Yankees order here is starting to make a little bit of noise in what is only a one-run game. Mason Williams, that little toe tap. Off he goes, wait back, shoot that ball right back up the middle.
So a little trouble here in the 7th inning. Brett Gardner 0 for 3. Bit of a spot here. Lays off that pitch away, the changeup. Now he is behind 2-0. Boxberger with a couple losses on that last road trip. One in Baltimore and one in Toronto. Gets a strike on Gardner, 2-1. Change up there takes the count to 2-2.
We talked about all those ways a pitcher will attempt to get a hitter out. For Brad Boxberger, most of the time it's the back and forth, the fastball, the changeup, get you in between. He got Gardner way out in front on that one there.
Ground ball right side through into right. Torreyes heads to the plate. Throw back to second. The game is tied. Williams goes to third as Gardner bounces it through the right side of the infield for an RBI single.
You know, all Gardner is trying to do there is put the ball in play, and he was a little out in front, a hair, and he just rolls this pitch over. Another changeup, middle down. Look at him just get out and around it. Try to just make something happen. And he finds a hole. That leads to a run and another opportunity, 1st and 3rd now. And the Rays defensively, Boxberger trying to figure this all out right now and how he can get out of this and maintain what right now is a tie.
Here's Aaron Hicks. Fouls it away. Hicks has a base hit. Seven New York hits in the game. Hicks had the first one. Runner goes from first and no throw. A pump but no throw. Gardner has a steal. His 16th in 19 attempts.
Well, now everybody up. There goes Gardner. You see the middle infield back. You swipe the bag, you bring the infield in. But what Brad Boxberger has done and put himself in position here to go for a strikeout. 0-2.
And a count and a miss. pitch. He goes up with a fastball out of the zone and strikes out Hicks.
The guys just, they can't lay off. They cannot lay off. If there was ever an at-bat to shorten and put the ball in play, this would be it. But instead, you get an 0-2 hack like that on a pitch that's up at your face.
Two outs with a run home, men at second and third. Gary Sanchez will be the hitter. Jim Hickey has one of those conferences called on the mound.
Dwayne, go back to Hicks' first at bat in this game.
When he had such a great at bat.
Stayed up the middle, stayed inside the baseball. All of a sudden, down 0-2, and you're expanding and taking a big hack at a pitch that literally is neck high. I mean, not to no neck a dude.
Yeah.
He has one.
Walt Williams.
That's where it was.
Well, you're right about that. The difference being he was down 2 strikes with 2 men in scoring position, and he's not wanting to take a call third with men in scoring position.
But you can't take a call third if it's at your face.
That's right. Fly ball, deep off the bat of Sanchez. That one is gone. Sanchez on the first pitch unloads a 3-run home run. His 17th home run of the year, and the Yankees take the 5-2 lead.
These meetings that Jim Hickey has with his pitchers, typically the results following them are favorable to the Rays. Here's a breaking ball. We've seen this more and more, Dwayne, with Brad Boxberger. You know, he was always primarily fastball changeup. And we've seen him try to incorporate the breaking ball more and more. And you start Sanchez off with your third pitch, and it's not a high-quality slider, and it gets turned into 3 runs.
Well, great contact. They got out of here in a hurry, and now the Rays are down by 3. 17 home runs for Sanchez.
42nd game this season. That's not what, 6 now in his last 11 games too.
Right. Yep.
Was red hot, slowed way down, catching fire again. 3rd game in a row with a homer.
So it's now 2-1. A foul ball off the bat of Butler. It's Garton on the left, Gamboa on the right. The G-men in the Rays bullpen getting busy. Roller deep short, grabbed by Ramirez, throw to first, right there to retire the side. But the Yankees have a big inning. They score 4, 3 coming on the home run by Sanchez. 5-2 New York. Of the 7th, that's what's coming up. On tomorrow's Rays Live. Pre-game shows presented by your Gulf Coast Honda dealers. Alex Cobb on the hill. We'll hear from him, and the rest is we'll break down the American League pennant race as we head into the bottom of the 7th. And New York now up 5-2. Alexi Ramirez will lead it off for the Rays, followed by Richie Schaefer and then Bobby Wilson. Up and in to Ramirez. High fly ball, center field. Williams under it and makes the catch.
I got to tell you, Dwayne, you're just showing me a picture of Walt Williams, and you're not kidding. He's got forearms like you can't believe. They look like somebody's quads.
That's exactly right.
And he has no neck. I mean, he has no neck.
Hence the nickname, No Neck Williams.
Well, yeah, but sometimes, you know, that's a little bit. He really doesn't. He's got a head sitting on the torso.
That's right.
But if you said anything about it, he'd take those forearms and take you down.
Yeah, he good-natured about his nickname, and it was a good thing.
Get derogatory, and Walt Williams looks like he can take care of some business.
Schaefer, Richie Schaefer, sending a fly ball up the right side, just in the line. Our good friend Elliot Weiser tuning in and immediately sending us the likeness of Walt Williams in a White Sox uniform.
I'm telling you, that really is uncanny. Oh, that's something.
I'm not going to lie to you.
No, no, and that's a nickname that truly lives up to.
Yep. Good stuff. Bobby Wilson takes a strike. Well, Severino and Boxberger now become the pitchers of record in this game. Rays down 1-1 to count to Wilson. Ground ball to short. That's grabbed by Gregorius. And it's 1-2-3 in the bottom of the 7th inning. On to the 8th we go. 5-2 New York. 7. The Yankees with a 4 spot in their half of the 7th to make it a 5-2 game moving into the 8th. Gary Sanchez with a 3-run home run, his 17th home run of the year. At the same time, Boston has opened a 5-1 lead in Baltimore. And here in the 8th inning, Eddie Gamboa enters as pitcher number 3 for the Rays.
Now this will be his 3rd appearance, and he's got a little bit different look. You know, you don't see too many guys that can throw that fastball upper 80s and yet drop a knuckleball on you too, and you'll see a little bit of both. Interesting arsenal, Mr. Gamboa. Even has an interesting way of holding that knuckleball. Get some twisting action on it.
Mark Teixeira takes the first pitch, the knuckleball, at 68 miles per hour, and it was wide. It's in there for a strike. New York hitting 2 home runs tonight. Teixeira a solo homer in the 4th, and Sanchez the 3-run home run in the 7th. Red Sox got 3 of those runs on a home run by David Ortiz, his 36th of the year. He Betts, by the way, a 3-hit night, giving him 201. Teixeira strikes out on the knuckleball. 1 away.
There it is. That's an interesting way. Like he's pinching that thing, and you see that twisting, spinning action, and it just doesn't get there. Upper 60s. Teixeira way out in front. Yeah, I've never seen a knuckleball. That's almost like a fingertip ball.
Yep. There's a bunt. Oh, great pickup, and the throw is wide. Backed up by Miller. What a pickup, and an attempt by Gamboa on the bunt by Gregorius, who's safely aboard. All in one motion, the slide, the pickup, and the throw.
Boy, 2 things to point out in this play, Dwayne, and you covered one of them right there. Eddie Gamboa's effort. This is sweet, but you know what else? How about Logan Forsythe? The little things. The little things. Logan Forsythe made a play on that ball right there, backing it up, or Gregorius would be out at second base. But Logan, hustling behind the play, is able to cut that off. Little things like that that do not go unnoticed by coaches and teammates, but won't show up in any box score.
Yep. And watch Logan.
Again, already anticipating.
Just in case.
And hey, you don't see that all the time. That's why you love him.
Mm-hmm. That's the way they do it at Arkansas.
I mean, we've gone from, like, I'm feeling real comfortable now with breaking down ground balls, infield pop-ups, and now backing up bases.
Sure.
Cover it all.
Yeah.
And get like, how many looks do we have in that? Like 3.
Base hit into center by Torreyes. Up to second goes Gregorius.
How about a knuckleball pounded right into the ground? Let's get a double play and get out of here.
Sounds like a plan.
Yankees starting to flex their muscles here late in the game. Another threat.
Two hits, runners first and second. Donovan Solano. Gamboa's knuckleball is high. Gamboa, 31 years old. And that's foul. Play 1-1. made his debut at 31, 256 days, which ranks him second in Rays history, making a major league debut at that age. Jim Morris was 35, the left-hander, back in '99. High chop right side. That's Forsythe making the throw to first, and not an easy play where he was headed.
Well, let's break it down. Let's take a look at it. The chopper to the right side, and watch Logan. Okay, Logan's back up here, and watch the angle. He's got to take an angle back towards the turf out there in shallow right field to get a good hop and to make a play on it. I like the backup better.
Well, both examples of.
Got to draw though.
Yeah, absolutely. Into left, Williams caught by Dickerson. So a threat, but no runs. Couple of hits to left. Bottom of the 8th coming, 5-2 New York. Tonight's Geico great moment. Truly an epic. On this day in 2013, 18 innings, the Orioles in town, and David DeJesus comes up with a walk-off single, the longest game in both time and innings in Rays history. 6 hours, 54 minutes, 18 innings.
Hey, let me ask you something. You saw the celebration there of DeJesus.
Yeah.
Was that the game where he threw his helmet way up in the air and it hit Kelly Johnson in the middle of the back and took him down? You remember that?
I remember that. It might have been.
It was on a toss like that, and it hit Kelly Johnson right in the middle of the back.
Forsythe, a long foul up the right side.
And it
I
didn't
remember
feel
that.
good.
No, not at all. Yeah, I like the appearance of Jamie Wright in the aftermath of that.
The Chewbacca mask?
Yeah, thought that was great.
Wasn't there another one where he came out in the Gene Simmons mask?
I think so, yeah. Tyler Clippard. Oh, hey, I think we have the helmet toss.
Hold on, this is the one. Keep your eye on Kelly Johnson. There he is. Right? Yes. Oh! that came from a long way. What if that had caught him in the head?
Oh,
you
man.
can't fire that thing straight up like that.
No, well.
You'd have cracked your skull. He would have cracked his skull.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Great memory, by the way. Way to go.
Well, yeah, but when I saw the helmet go up, I'm like, that's got to be the one that cracks Johnson. Because that you can just, first of all, it's that close to the head, 1, and 2. Even so, upper back,
yeah,
it didn't feel good.
No, you need a major adjustment after that.
Wow. Nate Lee, where are you?
Yeah. 3-1 the count to Forsythe off speed. Foul out of play. Rays have been out hit 10-5 and they trail 5-2, so they need a couple base runners here in the 8th. Forsythe has worked the count all the way out. Fly ball into left. That's going to send Gardner back to the track, to the wall. Going to be over his head. Extra bases. Forsythe's going to dig for 3. He is in there safely. Ray's second triple of the night. Number 3 on the year for Logan Forsythe.
Showing the quick and strong hands. Yeah, just a little bit out in front. Watch him just swap this. It's a changeup. Foot's down, and he just goes down and gets it. Look at him get underneath that with some carry. Thought that Brett Gardner was going to have a chance at this thing, and he certainly does, but it gets over the glove, and Logan Forsythe running hard the entire way gets to third with nobody out.
Well, there's a start. Kevin Kiermaier. And this one off the mid of Sanchez, and down the line, scoring easily, is Forsythe. So the Rays get their 3rd run.
Well, let's take a look. Almost looked like it ripped through the webbing. That fastball not located, right off the top of the glove. Pretty quick and easy way to score that run.
Oh, that's a strike. And they charge Sanchez with a pass ball, allowing the run to score on the first pitch to Kiermaier. Triple and a pass ball, and the Rays have made it a 2-run game. Kiermaier trying to get aboard to get the potential tying run to the plate with Longoria on deck. And boy, what a difference it makes between a 2-run game and a 3-run game.
Oh.
I mean, all of a sudden you feel as if you've got a great chance now.
Energized. You're thinking base runner and pop one. You don't feel like you have to work as hard in putting together a big inning.
Biting down and in, out of the zone, 2-2. Kiermaier's out on strikes. Missed the fastball.
Well, the velocity's not going to blow you away, but the way that he spins this up in the zone between the belt and the letters, able to get it by Kiermaier.
14th strikeout for New York pitching tonight. First out in the 8th. Here's Evan Longoria. Evan swings and sends a fly ball into left. Gardner will come in a couple steps. 2 gone. Brad Miller. Miller 2 for 3. Tripled in 2 runs in the 3rd. Singled in the 6th. Takes ball 1 here in the 8th. 2-0. Three balls, no strikes. Now it's 3-1. Bottom of the 8th, 2-run game. Now full count.
Change up. This one in. It's right there. Previous pitch, you could argue.
And a cut and a miss. Miller out on strikes. We're going to head into the 9th. It's a 5-3 contest. St. Luke's Cataract and Laser Institute. World-class care right in Tampa Bay. By Ram Trucks, Guts, Glory, Ram. And by your Gulf Coast Honda dealers. Ninth inning here at Tropicana Field. Top of the order will be up here for New York. Brett Gardner, who singled home a run in the 7th inning and then scored on the home run by Gary Sanchez. Eddie Gamboa misses wide with the first knuckleball. Gardner also picked up his 16th steal after that base hit in the 7th. And a strike. Tance is up in the bullpen. Rays have been out hit 10-6. Gamboa trying to hold New York in the top of the lineup in the 9th. 2. Gamboa with the pickup and a quick toss over to first. So one away here. Gardner retired. But coming up on Rays Live, the post game presented by Checkers. Todd DeRustis will be anchoring the coverage. We think the repairs have been done to the set in left field. We'll hear the Kevin Cash press conference and interviews from the clubhouse. That's a strike. Aaron Hicks. Down in the count quickly. Ball, 2 strikes. Just a little housekeeping chore. They have changed the pass ball in the bottom of the 8th into a wild pitch.
Was that Todd lobbying?
One can only speculate that that would be the case. He's very active.
Very.
Just because he's not doing an update or a segment doesn't mean that he's got his feet up somewhere.
You know, that's a great point. That's a great point, because the last time we saw him, it was the DJ Kitty toothbrush, right? And then it got real weird into laundry, and all, that was early in the game.
Yep.
Yeah, where did he go? Maybe he's out working on the set, making sure it's up to snuff.
Yeah. Oh, there he is. He's still got the DJ Kitty.
DJ Kitty giving a couple of thumbs up right there.
Yep.
The 3 of them.
Could be one of Ernest Hemingway's DJ Kitties.
Okay, please explain. Yeah, every once in a while you come up with one of those Dennis Miller references that just a certain population will get and cry laughing, and then everybody else just feels dumb.
No, they just have an extra little digit.
Oh,
the Hemingway Kitties.
Okay.
Key West at his place. They're still hanging around there.
And now I see.
That's it.
More to the story.
Yep. Sanchez. No ball, no strikes. Runner on, 1 out. Oh, back end standing, made a little closer than maybe it needed to be. Gamboa got ahead of Hicks and then walked him. Two and 0. Well, 3 balls, no strikes. And that's inside. He missed with the fastball there on Sanchez. That pushes Hicks up to second. Well, a couple base runners on 2 hits in the 8th now. 2 base runners on 2 walks in the 9th. Billy Butler about to step in. Butler has 2 doubles. Takes a knuckleball in the upper reaches of the zone. We're in the top of the 9th here. Boston hitting in the top of the 8th in Baltimore, leading 5-2. And the grab up the right side by a fan. That foul ball. Just a little bit of that one foul.
Yeah, anything to stay alive right there. After the back-to-back walks, Billy Butler walks right into an 0-2 Hornets nest. And then just trying to put that ball in play.
A ball, 2 strikes. Betances was up alone with this 2-run ball game, but if it gets any more distance between the two clubs, we might see Holder. Smiley worked 6, gave up a run on 4 hits. Boxberger touched for 4 runs in 1 inning. And now Gamboa. Two. Rays have had only one other knuckleball pitcher. That was Dennis Springer back in the inaugural year of '98.
I roomed with Dennis Springer at the Onalco Hilton in Venezuela, in Caracas.
Really?
Yeah, we played for the Tiburones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was my room dog. He was the one that told me initially, don't panic, but on day 2 or 3 of being down here, you're going to get so sick, you're going to think that it's the end, and it's going to be about 3 days, and then you're going to feel totally fine. So I had that to look forward to. And he was right on the money, by the way.
Hey, there's strike 3. Knuckleball right on the money there. It's good to have a roommate who can guide you that way.
Yeah, he was way more mature. There's no question. No question at all. But he had that right. Day 3, I was at the field and had to take a train back, like in a fetal position, and didn't get off the couch for 3 days. And then at the end,
straighten right
not
up.
too bad.
Yeah. Fly ball to right by Teixeira. Montek will go back a couple of steps from the wall to make the catch. So just another scoreless inning by the knuckleballer. 2 left. 5-3 New York. Rays coming in for their final shot, down 5-3. Corey Dickerson set to lead off against Dellin Betances. Betances, last 5 appearances, is 0-2. Boy, those are numbers unlike any that we really ever seen. And so here is Corey Dickerson. Jeff Decker is on deck. One strike the count. There he is, preparing to pinch hit for Matuk.
Ready to go. How about that first assignment back in the big leagues?
Yep. Big cut and a miss.
Go get yourself some Betances. And it's the hook, the fastball, 98, 99, a nasty curveball. But you saw those numbers, has been struggling recently. Look at 120 strikeouts in 70 innings. That's remarkable.
One and two. That would hit 100 on the gun here at the ballpark at Tropicana Field. Torres at second. Now Dickerson is out of there. Well, Jeff Decker will pinch hit for Matuk.
Number 14, Jeff Decker.
Well, for Decker, the minor league season was over. He had gone home. It was over. He went home.
Yeah, for like a week and a half.
Yep. Just doing some chores around the house, relaxing a little bit. Got a call. Play a little baseball. Come on back. Now he faces Dellin Betances. Fouls that first pitch back. That one hit 99 on the gun at the ballpark. Season over. Go home to Arizona. Hang around the house, and then here's 99.
Yeah. Right now, Jeff is wondering who dislikes him so much.
0-2. I mean, it's amazing. You can still come back and make contact. He fouled off 99.
He's a pro, Dwayne, like you said, a true pro.
He is. One ball, 2 strikes.
I wonder if he was doing any work time he was off.
I don't know. Tried to stay in shape, did a little lifting. Still 1-2. Foul ball right back into the screen. Alexi Ramirez on deck. And he's out on strikes. So 2 outs in the ninth.
Well, a ridiculously tough assignment, and you see that knuckle curve grip. He throws it so hard and spins it so tight.
Yep.
And Decker just trying to, I mean, just foul it off, put it in place, something.
16th strikeout tonight by New York pitching.
Yeah, and I mean, this guy, we already pointed out, 120 and 70 innings coming in, nothing new to him.
See, Ramirez takes the ball outside.
16 punch-outs.
Yep, how about that? But they got a pretty good running start at 11 and 5 1/3 from Pineda.
And had the lead on it.
Yep. High octane right there. Called strike, 1-1. Ooh, and then how about that hook?
I mean, really, when he's on, it's not fair. It borders on not being fair. You know, he's so tall, too, that his release point feels like it's right out in front of you. I mean, he's long, and he's got that reach.
Two balls, 2 strikes. How about that when you look at the strikeout per 9 innings ratio? Betances 15.43.
Look who's in second. That was his teammate.
Yep.
I mean, how about that?
Little tapper foul. Well, Ramirez fouling it off to stay alive. Up the right side, so Ramirez battling here to extend it. Braves down by 2.
And that's what exactly. So you need a base runner. Find your way on. This at bat by Alexi Ramirez has gotten better and better, and give yourself a chance with Richie Schaefer.
The chop to short. Gregorius will make the play. 3 up and 3 down go the Rays in the 9th, and the Yankees take the first game of this series. It's a 5-3 final. 5-10-0, 9 left for New York, 3-6-0, 4 left for the Rays. Severino gets the win, Boxberger the loss, but Betances a save. Took 2 hours and 49 minutes to play it before 12,732. For Brian Anderson, Todd Callis, and the rest of our crew, Dwayne Stats, hope you've enjoyed the telecast, if not the outcome. We'll be with you tomorrow at 6:30. Middle game of this series. Now Rays Live, the postgame presented by Checkers, comes your way next.